Absolutely, there's a high chance that we're going to see maybe some signals in there from more recent human activity that might complicate things a little bit, which I think is why it's important that we get samples from multiple locations so it could help point us in the right direction.
Currently, for more than 200 years, one tiny island off the coast of Nova Scotia has lured explorers with the promise of unimaginable treasure and punished almost everyone who tried to uncover it. Fortunes have disappeared, heavy machinery has vanished underground, lives have been lost. Yet the island has never revealed what it's hiding. Now, after 12 seasons, millions of dollars, and countless failed excavations, something extraordinary has happened. During what seemed like another routine drilling operation, the team struck a massive underground void buried deep beneath the swamp, a discovery unlike anything they've encountered before. Some believe it could be the entrance to a hidden chamber containing treasure worth hundreds of millions. Could this finally be the breakthrough that ends one of history's greatest treasure hunts? Or is Oak Island about to unveil an even bigger mystery than anyone imagined? Stay with us, because what happened next completely changed the way experts look at this legendary island. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We bring you the world's most fascinating mysteries, unbelievable discoveries, and real stories that are often stranger than fiction. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. To understand why this discovery is so important, you first have to understand what Oak Island has already cost in money, in time, and in human lives. Since the 1960s, treasure hunters have poured fortunes into this small 3.5-hectare island, chasing a legend that dates back to 1795, when three boys discovered a strange depression in the ground. Curious, they started digging and uncovered a shaft lined with wooden platforms every 10 feet. As if someone had deliberately built it to keep intruders out. Every serious attempt to reach the bottom has ended the same way: flooding. The shaft appears to be connected to engineered tunnels that allow seawater to rush in the moment excavators get close to whatever lies beneath. That's why it became known as the Money Pit, a place that swallows fortunes instead of giving them back. Pumps have failed, equipment has been destroyed, entire expeditions have walked away empty-handed. Yet the mystery has refused to die. Then came one of the darkest chapters in Oak Island's history. During an excavation attempt in the 1960s, a catastrophic explosion followed by a tunnel collapse reportedly claimed the lives of several workers. From that point on, many believed the island wasn't just mysterious. It was cursed. Years later, two brothers from Michigan, Rick and Marty Lagina, decided to take on the challenge that countless others had abandoned. With backgrounds in engineering and business, they purchased a controlling interest in Oak Island during the 2000s and transformed the centuries-old treasure hunt into the hit History Channel series, The Curse of Oak Island. Across 12 seasons, viewers have watched an enormous operation unfold. Massive drilling rigs, underwater dives, swamp excavations, metal detecting surveys, and advanced forensic testing have all become part of the search. Researchers have analyzed everything from ancient wood and bone fragments to centuries-old coins, hoping that one discovery would finally solve the island's greatest mystery. Of course, an investigation on this scale comes with an enormous price tag. Reports suggest the Lagina family's investment has reached tens of millions of dollars. Some estimates shared by fans even claim Marty Lagina alone may have spent more than $80 million once machinery, permits, engineering teams, and years of excavation costs are taken into account. That is the gamble behind this entire story. The belief that a legend more than 200 years old is based on something real, and that whatever lies beneath Oak Island is still waiting to be uncovered by someone willing to risk everything. For a long time, however, that gamble seemed destined to fail. Season after season brought intriguing discoveries, but never the breakthrough everyone was hoping for. One year, it was layers of coconut fiber. Another year, it was evidence of possible flood tunnels. Then came carved stones and unusual artifacts. Each discovery added another piece to the puzzle, yet none provided undeniable proof that a hidden treasure actually existed. Because of that, critics often argued that Oak Island had become more of a television phenomenon than a genuine archaeological success. They believed the mystery itself was keeping the project alive rather than any real evidence hidden underground. For many years, it was difficult to argue with that opinion. Everything changed when the team decided to abandon the traditional approach. Instead of concentrating solely on the original money pit, the location explored, flooded, and excavated countless times over the last 2 centuries, they expanded their investigation across the surrounding swamp and nearby ground using modern underground imaging technology. That single decision would eventually lead them toward the most significant clue they had ever uncovered. The breakthrough wasn't discovered because someone started digging in a brand new location. It happened because researchers revisited years of existing information and looked at it from an entirely different perspective. Throughout the investigation, specialists had collected huge amounts of underground data using ground-penetrating radar, seismic imaging, and borehole cameras. Most of the results were exactly what geologists expected to find: layers of rock, clay, groundwater, and naturally formed cavities created over thousands of years. Nothing appeared especially remarkable, yet one feature refused to disappear. Across multiple surveys conducted years apart, investigators kept identifying a mysterious underground void measuring roughly 10 feet across, located much deeper than any previous excavation had managed to reach. At first, the anomaly was dismissed as a naturally occurring cavity within the island's limestone bedrock. Groundwater is known to slowly dissolve limestone over long periods, leaving empty spaces beneath the surface, so there seemed to be nothing unusual about it. But the story changed once researchers compared every available source of information. When newer scan results were matched with older borehole records and then checked against excavation journals written by treasure hunters during the 19th century, an astonishing pattern appeared. The underground void occupied almost the exact same location described decades earlier by diggers who reported encountering a mysterious cement vault, along with wooden cribbing structures deep below the surface. Those early explorers had no access to radar equipment or modern mapping technology. Even so, their handwritten records pointed to virtually the same location identified by today's scientific surveys. That discovery transformed the investigation. What had once looked like a simple geological formation now appeared far more likely to be the remains of a carefully engineered structure built centuries ago, using techniques that archaeologists still struggle to fully understand. Only one obstacle remained. How could anyone reach it without triggering the same flooding system that had defeated every major excavation before it? As the investigation continued, another intriguing detail emerged. Metal detection surveys conducted at approximately the same depth produced signals far stronger than researchers expected. The readings suggested the presence of concentrated worked metal rather than scattered debris from abandoned farming equipment or old shipwreck remains. At the same time, laboratory testing of wooden samples recovered from nearby boreholes indicated that some of the timber dated back to a period consistent with the island's oldest historical theories. Long before the Lagina brothers arrived, and even earlier than the famous 1795 discovery that launched the legend. For the first time in decades, multiple independent pieces of evidence were beginning to support one another: historical documents, underground radar images, scientific laboratory dating, metal detection results. Each pointed toward the same location beneath Oak Island. The mystery was no longer being driven solely by stories passed down through generations. It was beginning to rest on physical evidence. Now came the hardest part: actually reaching whatever was hidden below. Excavating to those depths on Oak Island has never been straightforward. Every attempt becomes a battle against collapsing shaft walls, unstable clay that traps heavy equipment, and the infamous flood tunnels that seem determined to fill every excavation with seawater whenever anyone gets too close to the island's hidden center. Previous seasons were filled with setbacks. Entire drilling systems had to be abandoned, massive investments disappeared into the ground, and work was sometimes suspended for months while engineers searched for a safer way forward. Oak Island had a habit of defeating every ambitious plan thrown at it. This time, however, the team refused to repeat the mistakes of the past. Rather than sinking one enormous shaft into the island, a strategy that had frustrated treasure hunters for well over a century, they adopted a far more cautious method. A network of narrow boreholes was drilled from different directions, allowing cameras, sensors, and measuring equipment to reach the target from several angles before any large-scale excavation began. The process was slower, but it dramatically reduced the risk of collapse. More importantly, it allowed researchers to build a detailed three-dimensional map of what lay underground without disturbing the surrounding earth. That careful planning soon paid off. The images returned from the borehole cameras suggested the anomaly was far more than a naturally formed empty space. The cavity appeared to have remarkably straight boundaries and geometric features that were difficult to explain through normal geological processes alone. Even more intriguing, the footage reportedly revealed what looked like worked stone, together with fragments of metal positioned along one section of the chamber. Their arrangement appeared deliberate, not the random result of a cave-in or centuries of erosion. According to specialists invited to analyze the footage during the investigation, the overall shape looked far more like a man-made chamber than a naturally occurring pocket within the bedrock. If that interpretation is correct, the implications are enormous. A deliberately constructed chamber would mean that someone intentionally excavated the site, reinforced it, and sealed it centuries before modern explorers ever arrived on Oak Island. When those visual observations are considered alongside the metal detection readings discussed earlier, the evidence becomes much harder to dismiss. For the first time in more than 200 years, several independent sources appeared to support the same conclusion: historical records, scientific sensor data, camera imagery, laboratory analysis. Rather than relying on old legends or stories passed from one generation of treasure hunters to the next, investigators now have multiple forms of physical evidence pointing toward the very same underground location beneath the island's swamp. For a project that has often been criticized for delivering intriguing clues instead of definitive answers, this may represent its most significant breakthrough yet. But that naturally raises an even bigger question. What exactly could be hidden inside? Over the years, Oak Island has inspired almost every theory imaginable. In fact, the real challenge has never been a lack of ideas. It has been finding convincing evidence to support any of them. One of the most famous possibilities links the island to the Knights Templar. According to this theory, priceless religious relics or secret documents were transported across the Atlantic and hidden far from political enemies and religious authorities in Europe. Another idea points toward Britain's colonial era. Some historians believe military payrolls, captured valuables, or wartime supplies could have been concealed on isolated Atlantic islands during periods of conflict, making Oak Island a logical hiding place. Then there is the enduring story surrounding Marie Antoinette's missing jewels. Supporters of this theory suggest the royal treasures were secretly removed from revolutionary France and hidden overseas, where they were never recovered. Others believe the answer may be far less dramatic. Instead of legendary treasure, the underground structure could simply represent an early engineering project, a storage facility, defensive installation, or other practical construction created by colonial settlers or military planners. At present, none of these explanations has been proven. What makes the latest discovery so compelling is its location. The newly identified chamber closely matches descriptions recorded during several different periods of Oak Island's long history, suggesting that whoever created it intended it to remain protected. The wooden platforms, the reported flood tunnels, the depth, the layout. Together, these elements resemble a carefully engineered system designed to keep intruders away, using construction methods that were remarkably advanced for their time. As for the figure mentioned in the title, the estimated $269 million, it's important to understand where that number comes from. It is not an officially confirmed valuation. Instead, it reflects estimates circulating within the Oak Island community based on the possible value of gold, historical artifacts, and other treasures that enthusiasts believe could be hidden inside the chamber. Until anything is actually recovered, examined, and independently authenticated, that figure should be viewed as speculation rather than established fact. What can be stated with much greater confidence is this. After 12 seasons filled with promising clues, frustrating setbacks, and countless near misses, investigators now possess the strongest combination of physical evidence the project has ever produced in support of the centuries-old legend. Even so, discovering a chamber is only half the battle. Recovering whatever may be inside presents an entirely different challenge. History has repeatedly shown that Oak Island punishes anyone who underestimates the complexity of its underground defenses. Its infamous flood tunnels have already defeated numerous well-funded expeditions, including large commercial operations during the 20th century that ultimately left with little more than financial losses. If the team decides to excavate the newly identified chamber completely, they will almost certainly need to control groundwater entering from several directions, reinforce unstable excavation walls, and perhaps even rely on specialist underwater recovery crews if parts of the chamber remain flooded. A possibility supported by both historical accounts and modern borehole observations. And even if something remarkable is finally recovered, one final hurdle still remains: verification. Every discovery will need to undergo careful scientific examination and independent authentication before it can truly rewrite the history of Oak Island. This is also the point where it's important to separate evidence from assumption. Ground-penetrating radar, borehole cameras, and underground sensors can strongly indicate that a hidden structure exists beneath the surface, but they cannot reveal exactly what's inside it. Until researchers obtain a physical sample or send a camera directly into the chamber, every claim about its contents, its value, or who built it remains a well-informed theory rather than an established fact. Even so, the evidence collected so far is difficult to ignore. After years of investigation, multiple independent sources, including radar surveys, historical excavation records, laboratory dating, and borehole imaging, appear to be pointing toward the same underground location. That level of agreement is something Oak Island researchers have rarely seen before. One thing is equally clear: neither Rick nor Marty Lagina appears ready to abandon the search. After investing more than a decade of their lives and spending tens of millions of dollars on the project, this latest discovery provides exactly the kind of encouragement needed to continue. More importantly, it offers longtime viewers something they have been waiting years to see: a discovery supported by measurable evidence rather than speculation alone. According to reports, engineers are already evaluating the safest way to begin the next phase of the operation. The goal is no longer simply to scan the underground chamber from a distance, but to reach it directly, either by lowering a camera inside or, if conditions allow, carrying out a carefully controlled excavation. That won't be easy. Oak Island has challenged every major expedition that has attempted to uncover its secrets. Any future excavation must overcome unstable ground, groundwater intrusion, and the constant danger of collapse. A project of this scale will require careful planning, specialized equipment, and considerable patience. But unlike many previous investigations, this time the team isn't chasing a vague anomaly on a radar screen. They have a clearly defined target supported by multiple lines of evidence. Whether that chamber contains treasure, priceless historical artifacts, or simply the answer to one of history's oldest unsolved mysteries, the next stage of the search could become the most important chapter in Oak Island's long and fascinating story. For more than 2 centuries, the island has guarded its secrets. Now, it may finally be closer than ever to revealing one of them. Whatever is waiting beneath the swamp, one thing seems certain: Oak Island's story is far from over. If you enjoyed this investigation and want to be here when the next major discovery happens, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We'll continue following every development and break down the evidence as soon as new information becomes available. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.